All right, welcome to another episode of Cubfidential, where the greatest coverage from Wrigley comes after dark. I am your producer, Jay Nelson, and we're going to be giving you a great whip around coverage of Chicago Cubs baseball. And before we get started, let's go ahead and bring on the host himself. He is the Godfather, the Brooklyn bad boy, Mr. JB Ellis.
What's going on, Jay? How you doing tonight?
Doing all right, doing good. How you doing, sir?
Doing better than our Cubs, man. They're struggling. We got a lot to
Yeah,
talk about tonight.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure. Everybody's got great things to say. We also got some throwback stuff to talk about too as well. So I'm excited for it. Let's get it started.
Sounds good. Who we got first?
Coming up first is gonna be Jennifer Matthews Lewis. She's in the hole. I'm gonna go ahead and bring her on.
Hey, Jed, how
Hey,
you doing?
good. How are you, JB?
Doing well. So let's start out with the Cubs this week. What's going on with them?
Hmm. Well, we had one really good game.
I know that was it as far as W's.
Yeah,
What's happening with them?
I
Where are the
am not
problems?
sure. Okay, so some of the problems I've seen is we have really good contact, but there's a lack of power. So, and that's leading to a lot of double plays where our pitching core is just not where it needs to be. Um, we just need more practice. I don't know if it's coaching. A lot of people thought David Ross would be like a great manager, but has he proven himself to be? Um, Not
I mean,
yet.
that's been the knock on Rossi from the beginning. I mean, he makes a lot of questionable decisions, especially with the bullpen. We're gonna have
Yes.
some good talk about that later on.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's no power coming out of the lineup. The
Mm-mm.
wind was blowing out almost all weekend. In the 21 run game, they only had one home run.
Yeah.
There's just been a lack of power and a lack of situational hitting. I mean, what could be done to fix these problems?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I feel like you have to have your head in the game, and I don't know that their heads in the game right now. That's just where I'm at. Like it was fun to watch because when you have a game like you did Saturday with the 21-0, then you do see some like fun silly stuff happen, like outfielders pitching, things like that. But then you're almost too egotistical too. And I don't know if that's what it is. And like you said, there wasn't even a home run that game. So we just need to get head in the game. Coaching needs to step up because there's something missing. And I think it's one of those things where David Ross is such a great player. Maybe it doesn't translate that well into coaching. Does that make
Now,
sense?
no, definitely. And I mean, you look at Stroman, who had a great outing tonight, 6 innings pitched, 3 runs. Did
Mm-hmm.
he right? Did he right his ship, or do you think he's back to where he should be, or you know,
Wait and see. Good start. You
not
know,
conf- not confident that he's back to the Stroman you expect?
I mean, he's coming back and it takes time. Your Steph Curry's don't just happen in every single sport. So not everybody's just going to come off the bench and be ready to go. And I think that's where we are. We have to build up the strength. We have to build up the mental strength, the physical strength. Um, I don't know. Maybe they're practicing too much or they're practicing the wrong things. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
look at
and go ahead.
no, I mean, one of the things the knocks on this team was the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at what happened in the Pirates series, they gave up 12 runs and they lost 3 out of 4 games.
Right.
This,
Well, and I
this
do think it'll help that we have added a couple of new players. We've just got Sean Newcomb from the Braves, and that was a couple of days ago. So breath of fresh air, but I think a lot of people are also just putting way too much on Suzuki too, to like win
Okay.
everything and do everything. And that's not fair to him, because he's phenomenal. He's great, but one man cannot win a series.
So what strengths is this team displaying right now? What are you looking at and saying, okay, this is what we do really well?
Like I said, there's a really good contact. We need to increase the power there. We have to increase our we do currently boast the highest ground ball rate by 52.9% in the entire league. But we also have to get everything else elevated, because we're also, I want us to be number one in OBP. Right now we're third. I know that's bad, but it's the Cubs, so I expect more, right? I mean, I think we're just struggling right now. And I can't put a number on it. I know Simmons had another setback. It'll be great when he's coming back full throttle. That'll help out a lot. I'm just aghast. I mean, I was doing the strikeout rate is 21.6, which is good, but it's not great. I mean, it's better than 32, multiple other teams, but we just have to do better. Like, we've got the parts, they're not gelling. Does that make sense?
I mean, looking at where they rank as far as team rankings, their offensive rankings, except for home runs and stolen bases, are all top 5.
Yeah.
Four or better. And their pitching is all in the bottom half of the league, in the 20s. Meanwhile, for whatever reason, when they play the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's like they're kryptonite. They can't beat the Pirates for whatever reason. And maybe it's just, a bad matchup for them or something. Some teams just have that, like the Yankees with the Orioles, another perfect example. For whatever reason, the Yankees always struggle to play the Orioles. The Yankees are a better team. The Cubs are a better team than the Pirates, hands down. Maybe it's just their kryptonite, but in that series, their pitching was spot on. And when you're looking at 20-something or higher in the league, and meanwhile, you only give it up 4 runs a game, and you have a top 4, top 5 offensive team, and you're just not scoring all of a sudden, it makes you wonder, is just Pittsburgh their kryptonite?
And that's very true, because I know, like, every team has their kryptonite. Every team has their team that they beat all the time. Like, I'm trying to think of analogies. I'm sorry. I put out a lot of energy earlier, so my brain's a little fried. But like, one of the examples I'm thinking of right now is because I live next door, and I brought it up earlier, is like the Carolina Panthers own the Arizona Cardinals. Just bottom line, they own them. And
Right.
that happens. And like you said, the Orioles own the Yankees. The Red Sox, the White Sox own the Cubs too. So, I mean, because if you look at the series, the White Sox have that one. And that's where we have the Cubs have to get it up together. And it's not fair to just blame pitching or just blame pitching, just blame coaching. But we've got to go look for another pitcher. We've got to get that relief in there, because it's not fair to have one guy go in, do 21, pitch the majority of the game, and then, he's exhausted and we're out because we ran out of gas because of that one epic game, which I think we all kind of knew was going to happen. I mean, didn't you? Did you really expect after a win like that for them to come back and win so solidly on Sunday?
Now, usually when a team has an offensive outpouring like that, the next game, the bats are usually flat. You don't usually have 2 amazing games like that in a row.
Right.
It is the Pirates, though, and for whatever reason, they're still not a very good team. They have a lot of good young players, but they're just not there yet. If they can keep their core together, they will be a good team in a few years, but they're not there yet. But their bullpen is horrible.
Yeah, the bullpen sucks right now. And I hate to be that blunt, but that's just what it is. And it makes me wonder if everybody they fired last year, if one or two of them they should have kept.
Yeah, I mean, then you look, at some of the things with their offense. If you see Happ and Hayward,
Mm-hmm.
last year they were just not themselves. They weren't hitting well. They were striking out a bunch more. You look at right now, Happ's hitting 333, which is phenomenal. Hayward is hitting 267, which isn't today's Major League Baseball. That's not horrible.
Right. It's pretty solid. It's pretty good.
So I mean, they're both having at the beginning of the year. They're both stepping up. Showing that last year maybe was just an aberration, and they have they can contribute to this team. So I wonder if that to me is a core strength to this team. The resurgence of Happ and Hayward, and then you have young guys like Horner and Suzuki that are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to be excited about offensively on this team.
Oh, I'll totally agree with you on that. I'm actually excited about the fresh air that's being brought in. We just traded Corey over to the Giants. So, I mean, he was a good player for us, but I'm thinking just switching it up a little bit because the Cubs front office has been on point, especially this early in the season and making trades and doing what they need to do. And I'm hoping that these new guys who are also more senior members will be able to bring that leadership to them, be able to bring that skill set, especially to help keep calmness and serenity in the locker room, in the bullpen. And that's my hope because I think it'll really help out a lot. But that's just me.
One of the things I was surprised about watching the Pirates series, and it goes to the way Major League Baseball is now.
Mm-hmm.
The Pirates catcher last year had a horrible track record of throwing runners out, trying to steal bases. And the Cubs have a decent amount of speed. Why not try and, generate offense through old-time baseball, stealing bases? Put pressure on the catcher and the pitcher to deliver the ball quicker. I mean, do you take that up as a coaching issue, or do you think that's just the way that the game has changed? That's not even something that's thought about.
I think it's a coaching issue because even if it is just because it's the way the game has changed, the coach has to stay on top of that.
Yeah, I'm
not trying to be rude. And I like David Ross.
Yeah.
So I really do. Like, I respect him a lot. But I also have to wonder, does the fighting that's going on internally with the front office and the owners have anything to do with all this?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that plays a part. If you're GM and the owners aren't on the same page and you can't bring the pieces to the puzzle and put them together the way you want, you
Mm-hmm.
have guys. I equate it to football being a Giants fan. You look at where they drafted, a wide receiver last year after they signed another wide receiver. There was no need for it,
Right.
Then they took Saquon Barkley, who's a great back, but they're wasting his career by not putting an offensive line there so he can run. So, then that's part of the GM issue. They have to take control and, put the pieces together. So that for sure is definitely an issue that they're having. But there are so many positives right now when I look at this team. I think the strength is their resiliency. They don't ever seem to be out of a game. There's always guys on base. It's just they have to start getting the timely hits.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the weakness that I see in this Cubs offense, they're not taking enough pitches.
No. But do you think that's where Wilson Contreras will help out?
See, I think he's part of that issue. Right now, Contreras has, if you look at his stats, he struck out 13 times with only 6 walks. He's, 6 walks is third highest on the team, so he is towards the team leaders in that. But the strikeouts are kind of high, and I don't know. I think back to, no, I can't hide that I'm a Yankee fan. I think back to the mid-'90s when the Yankees started winning World Series. Why were they so good? What made them so dominant was the way that they made pitchers throw so many pitches.
Oh, yeah.
And, when you look at Major League Baseball today, pitchers have so much trouble finding the strike zone. Unless Angel Hernandez is the umpire, it's hard to throw strikes for these guys, especially when you get into the bullpen. And the quickest way to get to the bullpen is make starting pitchers throw pitches. Lay off that first pitch. Take a few. Let them throw a strike, and let them throw 2 strikes sometimes. I think that's really important to be patient at the plate. That's where I think Suzuki excels. He doesn't always go up there and get hits. He has 11 walks. And any way you can get on base is a score, So I think that's it was a problem last year, and it hasn't improved this year. I think that's where they do have to focus and, just work with a guy like Wisdom, who strikes out a ton of times on bad pitches. Contreras, who's a better hitter, has a great eye, has to, be more patient at the plate, and just work the starting pitchers more so you get to these bullpens. Because there's very few teams in Major League Baseball that have a quality bullpen that can shut you down. The Pirates certainly don't. So
no, they don't.
If you can get into their bullpen, you have a shot to, score a lot of runs.
And I know I'm going back a little bit, but I know we're also going to touch on a little bit of old school players today too. My husband actually put on a game from like 20 years ago over the weekend on YouTube. And I was just watching Kerry Wood pitch. And
right.
I kind of miss watching pitchers like Kerry Wood. I'm not going to lie. But like when you're looking at a pitcher like Kerry Wood, also he's going to have a short career because of how impactful and powerful he was. So I don't know. I think, we do need that left. I don't know. Could we get Kerry Wood to come in and be a pitcher's coach?
See, I don't know. See, it's weird with star pitchers. I don't know if they could translate it to being good pitching coaches. You don't see it that often for whatever reason. When you look at the trajectory of pitching coaches in all fields of baseball, they seem to be guys that stalled out in A, AA, maybe even AAA. For whatever reason, you don't usually see the guy that got to the majors going back and becoming a pitching coach. And I wonder if it's because the guy that, stalled out in the minors, maybe because he had a couple of years of them to start coaching. But I'm not really sure on that. I'd have to delve deeper into it.
I might delve into that myself for next week. But then, like I said, I don't know. One thing I am excited about is Newcomb coming. I think that is going to add some enthusiasm, some leadership to our bullpen. I will say that. So I think that's a really big pro right there. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm like you. I think there's a lot of positives. I think coaching needs to evaluate what's being coached and what's being practiced, and maybe practice some of the things that aren't being practiced as much. I feel like I'm saying the same words a lot. Sorry.
Not to be sorry about.
But that's how I see it.
No, I definitely hear you. So what do you think, the Cubs could do for the strengths that they have to turn this around and start winning?
I think that the biggest thing they can do is just focus on their pros, get in the mindset that they were in from Saturday to win. And I think at the end of the day, they need to just bring a lot of positivity into the locker room and let it exude into the bullpen and like onto the fields. That's just me. Like, I really think, like, I know it sounds dumb, but I really think positivity and positive coaching really has a strong impact, and it gives you that winning personality. Sorry, that's so trite. But I'm thinking of like the teams this year that have done so much that were not playing to do anything at all. But the Cubs have so much going for them. It just needs to gel.
Well, I definitely hear you, Jed. Thank you so much for being
Thank
on. How
you.
can people find you?
They can find me on Two Chicks in a Pod Tuesday nights at 7:30, or Three Chicks in a Pod Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. along with the Queen of Hoops, Megan Price, and Chiefs chick Carrie Johnson. On You can find us on NBA Carousel, NFL Carousel, The Pundits Pundit, occasionally Zip Off. And thank you again, Jay, for having me on the Gauntlet last weekend. And you can also find me on Twitter at Jenna Cheryl, the professional fan.
Thank you so much, Jed. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So that was Jed. Coming up next, we have Jordan. Jordan's going to talk about the series we just started talking about. I have a headache thinking about it, except for Saturday. Saturday was amazing.
It
Jordan,
was.
What went wrong, Jordan? What is it about these Pirates that they took it for Wrigley and stole the booty?
That's a very good question. It was the fact that we didn't get timely hits. There was a bunch of times, and I mean, we only lost by 1 or 2 runs, but we had a guy, especially in the Thursday game, we had Suzuki on third, a chance to actually tie this ball game up, and unfortunately, didn't happen. Excuse me, Horner was on third, and Suzuki struck out. And like you were saying, is we weren't getting the timely hits. And then, of course, on Friday, we gave up 2 runs in the second, tied the game, and then the bullpen falters again. Of course, you talked about the fun game, which was on Saturday, blowing out the Pirates 21-0. And like you said, there weren't any home runs. And that is surprising, especially since the wind was blowing in from the outfield. You would have thought we would have had 4 or 5 home runs. No, it was just timely hitting. And then again, we go to Saturday or Sunday, where we got off to a great start. Again, our starters couldn't do it, and then the bullpen falters. So it was a very interesting series, to say the least. But I don't know what it is with these Pittsburgh Pirates. Like you guys are saying, there is teams that are just kryptonite, and apparently there are kryptonite.
It's just wild to think. I mean, like I said, I always say that as looking at the Yankees, for whatever reason, we go to Baltimore. The last couple of years, they've been horrible. We can't do anything to beat them in Baltimore. We should go into those games. It should be sweeps, winning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. That's where you pad your win stats, But for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. And I'm thinking with the Pirates, because they went to Pittsburgh the week before. I think they lost 2 out of 3. Then 3 out of 4 at home. It's for whatever reason, this team just doesn't play well against the Pirates.
I wish I knew the answer. I mean, I think even Ross wishes he knew the answer, but you're right. It's just something about playing the Pittsburgh Pirates that we don't perform well, and I don't know what it is. Again, we didn't have timely hits, didn't hit many home runs. They were the beneficiaries of timely hitting, and it's really frustrating to watch, especially since most of those games that we lost were 1 or 2 runs. We were right in those ball games, and to see our offense falter like that, it's just not fun. Whether it's David Ross talking to him in, BP, batting practice, or even in the dugout when they come out of the innings, I don't know what's going on with this team right now. I'm not in the panic button like Jen is, because it's only been 10% of the season. If this was June, July, then I'd be a little more concerned. We're still trying to gel. We still have young players like you guys mentioned, but I really want to see Hap do a little bit better. I mean, he was pretty good. Horner, and just a bunch of these other guys start hitting the ball. It'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what's happening, Saturday's game, 21 runs, the wind's blowing out. You hit 1 home run you have some decent power in that lineup. I don't think it's a bad thing that you're not hitting the long ball, but at the same time, does that worry you?
It does, because I mean, Wrigley, especially when the wind's blowing out, those should be cheap home runs into the bleachers. They're not. And if we're not hitting the long ball, that is a concern. Yeah, we're getting timely hits, but if you look at the teams that generally win, go to the postseason, it's the long ball that that does it. They're in the top 10. At least most of these teams that actually made the postseason are in the top 10 or 15 in home runs. And if we're not hitting a long ball, then what are we doing? We have to take advantage of pitches that are in the zone where we can smack them. Otherwise, it could be a long season.
Now, when you look back at the Pirate series, taking away Saturday because obviously there was no run scored against you, you're looking at you gave up 4 runs all 3 games. Now, in Major League Baseball, 4 runs, you can win or lose with 4 runs. It's not a large amount of runs. It's not but it's enough to win a game, obviously. When you look at that and your pitching staff is, as I was telling Jen, ranked in the 20s in every category. Are you happy giving up 4 runs over 3 days? Do you think that's enough with your offense to win these games?
I definitely think that at least 4 runs, if you're going to give up 4 runs, that's not that bad, especially since our pitching hasn't been that great. Honestly, it comes down to timely hitting. We've seen like Kyle Hendricks in the Pittsburgh series get a no decision, and that's honestly because he played pretty well, but his bullpen faltered. You have to get the bullpen right. Otherwise, we can't ride the ship. We can have all the pitching in the world, especially starting pitching, and they've done their job. I know Leiter didn't have the best stuff in the last game, and we ended up losing that game, which we'll debate here later. But you're still having, 4 runs. That should be enough. You just need offensive production, and that's not what we're getting right now.
Now, as me and Jen spoke about earlier, on base percentage, taking pitches. How do you coach that if you're Ross right now? What do you do to tell your guys, yeah, you want to be aggressive, but at the same time, you have to be selectively aggressive?
Basically, you got it. I think Ross has to tell them what they're seeing out there and just say, he wants this pitch down in the zone. Don't swing at it. Be a little bit more cautious at the plate. It also goes to Wilson Contreras because he's a catcher. He can see what they're doing. I just think it's a lot of, no communication. I don't know what they do in batting practice. Do they even talk about, this is what the guy's going to throw? This is where he likes, because they have all those scouting reports. But really it comes down to Ross just needs to tell the guys, this is what I'm saying. You need to lay off of this pitch. Yeah, it's great if you have a 2-1 count and maybe go after it, or a 3-0 count, but try to work the count. That's where it bottles down to, because if you can start taking pitches, that pitch count for the other team is going to go higher. And of course, you're going to get walks to help that on base percentage. And you want traffic on the base paths. That way you can actually score on a double or even a base hit, especially if the guy steals. They haven't stolen a lot of bases this year. We need to put more traffic on the base paths as well.
That to me was a killer. I mean, last year, I think the Pirates catcher threw out 2 guys out of 22, which is abysmal. And I heard the number during the game, so my numbers may be off. I apologize. This isn't Pirate Talk. That may be coming up, in a couple of months. We don't have that show yet at Sideline Sports. So if you're a Pirate fan watching, come check us out soon. But, why aren't you trying to run more? You have so much speed in that lineup. You have a catcher that's quick. Why aren't you putting pressure on that defense?
I wish I knew the answer, because I'd be more aggressive on the base paths, especially since you pointed out that the Pirates catcher wasn't very good at stealing or getting people out caught stealing. Why not add more pressure? I really wish I knew the answer to that. I think it all goes down to David Ross telling his third base coach or his first base coach, telling him not to steal. And I don't quite get that. You want to put pressure on these guys. Honestly, I wasn't a big component of hiring David Ross. I love him as a catcher, but his manager instincts have not come to Chicago.
Now, looking, when you think about it, is he the right guy for the job right now? If you could get rid of him now, bring somebody else in, would you do it?
I would not, just because we're only 10% through the season. Yeah, we're 7-10, not a great record. But as of right now, you right the ship just maybe until the end of May. If you have a losing record by May, June, then it's time to panic. Then you start thinking, do we really want Ross? But I'm sure the Ricketts family is looking at it saying, David Ross is the right guy. I never was a component of hiring Ross just because, again, players don't really do that well as managers, especially catchers. I mean, Joe Girardi is the exception. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think David Ross is the right guy. I don't think you fire him now. You wait until June and see where you are. Because last year, as we remember, we were ahead in this division in June and then just tanked it the rest of the year. And unfortunately, we traded some guys away. So I do think you just ride the ship with Ross for right now. And if you're, way out of even the wild card race, then it's time to let him go.
Right now, gut check. Is this division winnable for the Cubs?
I have to say no, only because you look at the talent with the Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals. That's who you're trying to chase. Even the Reds are pretty good this year. I mean, maybe their record doesn't say it, but they're pretty good. And of course, the Pirates. I don't know if it's winnable for us to actually win the division. I even had the St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee Brewers actually winning the division. I'd say if we got a wild card spot, I'd be ecstatic. But if you just look at the lineup of the St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee Brewers, unfortunately, we have a lot of young guys. They have veterans. If you look at St. Louis, they've got, Nolan Arenado. They have a bunch of guys there in that lineup, and it's really a hard division to win, especially since St. Louis and Milwaukee have the pitching. We have the pitching. We just need more power in the lineup, and I just think it's really tough for us to think of winning the division right now. Maybe if, things turn around here in the next month, then yeah, maybe it is a winnable division. I just don't see it right now.
So, all right, we brought up the Cardinals in that last question. My last question for you tonight before we go into a little Cub history. Last night, St. Louis game, they went in 2-1, top of the night, 2 outs, ground ball to first. The New York Mets take the lead because the pitcher didn't cover first base. As a Cubs fan, because we all know Cubs fan hate the Cardinals. How did that feel?
Felt pretty great, honestly, because again, there are hated rivals. We like to see St. Louis falter and lose. So, I mean, you're playing pretty good baseball up to that point, and you make one little error, and then you see the Mets win the game. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I saw the replay this morning, and first of all, I don't know where the pitcher was. He was in no man's land trying to cover first base, and the heads-up base running, by whoever scored that second run, getting in there and scoring and taking the lead, that was impressive. And since we're doing a Cubs show, even better to point that out. I loved it.
I did too.
So we gave you the task this week to go back in Cubs history and pick somebody that you enjoyed watching or that you wanted to learn more about. Who did you pick and why?
Actually, I did my favorite moment in Cubs history. And honestly, if you look at Cubs history, you can span from the early 1900s all the way to, now. And I have a couple of ideas that I was thinking about. The Kerry Wood, 27 strikeout that he tied the Major League Baseball record. I could have gone on with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, who actually brought baseball back in 1998, I should say, where he actually ended up hitting 66. But honestly, I could have said the easy answer of winning the World Series, but I have to say it was when we finally won the NL pennant. The only reason why I say that is because we had our chance in 2003, and I'm sorry for all of us Cubs fans. We saw that, we played the Florida Marlins. We came home up 3-2, just like we did in 2016, up 3-2 in that series. And we dropped game 6, 8-3. And I know there was an incident, but I'm not blaming Steve Bartman for that. We fell in 8-3. And in game 7 at home, we were ahead in that game and then somehow faltered, lost 9-6. Now, I personally don't know if we would have beaten the New York Yankees that year, but we still had, a great lineup that could have. But I have to go with beating the Dodgers in the 2016 NLCS. I mean, I was nervous for that game, of course, because of our history. We had Kyle Hendricks on the mound. versus Clayton Kershaw. And we know Clayton Kershaw, what he's done in the regular season and the postseason. So it was nice to actually jump on him early with a single by Bryan, which scored Dexter Fowler, and Zobrist with a sac fly. And then in the third, adding a single by Fowler. Fourth inning, Contreras crushed the ball. When we had a 4-0 lead, I figured this game's over. And of course, in the fifth, Anthony Rizzo capped it off with a home run to center. The best part was in the bottom of the ninth, I knew we were going to win. We were up 5-0. Yasiel Puig hit into a double play and honestly ended the game for us to go to the World Series for the first time since 1945.
Wow. It's a great day. Great day in history. So you did bring up something. You mentioned Bartman. You know, I don't want to talk about that tonight, but I do want to delve into that one night. I want to have a prolonged conversation with you about it, how he was treated, you know, what your thoughts are on it, and just the whole situation revolving around it, because I think that was fascinating. You know, I could think of, you know, a few other people, fans that got involved in games, and we'll talk about that one night. We'll tease that from the beginning. But Jordan, hang around, because we're going to bring you back for confrontation again in a few minutes. But we have the pundit coming up next. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jordan. And where can people find you?
You can follow me at Sports Scoop 1. Also on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I am on the NBA Carousel doing the Phoenix Suns, and read my blog that I write Mondays through Fridays at sports-scoop.com.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Coming up next, the one, the only, the pundit's pundit. Jacob, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. Watching the Cubs hit lately, it looks like I call them like Melvin Gordon in the fourth quarter. They're dropping the ball.
Well, good thing we're not talking about hitting this segment. We're going to talk about pitching.
Yeah.
And, you know, right now, you got to be pretty excited. You gave up 3 runs tonight against the Atlanta team that's got a really good offense. You held the Pirates to 12 runs over 4 games. You know, can't ask for much more.
I'm going to bring something up here on this one. It's like the Cubs have something that's always getting them. Always. They either have the bullpen that's struggling, and then they're starting to hit a little bit, or their hitting's going down, their bullpen's coming up. Nothing ever just seems to gel. I'll bring back to the 21-0 and Kyle Hendricks with basically a shutout through 7, and then they let him go. Which, here's the thing, he would have had a complete game with 90. He would have a complete game with 90 pitches. I don't know why they had to, but this is going to be a part of we have a little idea of our confrontational tonight. That's going to be a part of my little, my argument on that one. But you have this, Kyle goes 7, they win that, and then they have a good one. They have the good one. I mean, even though they lost 4-3, they have a good one there. Then tonight it was 1-1 for ages. 1-1 and then a home run against Stroman. You get all this. I mean, you get this, and it's like, what do you do? What do you do? And mind you, I'm going to bring back something that I heard over here. What does Ross do? First off, Ross is out of his league. I've been saying this for a bit. He's out of his league, and it's because he basically lived in Madden's shadow, and he learned from him. He needed to go to the minors. Doesn't mean he doesn't know the game, but he needed to go to the minors and go first and manage first. He's out of his league, and he gets caught. And then the fact is, he won a COVID shorted season. He won a division there. But then when everything got to 162, they had the struggles. And then right now, it looks like they're going to struggle again, little by little. He is struggling on pitching changes. He's struggling on when to go in. You can't really just say to a professional hitter, this is where you need to hit it. You can't say to a pitcher, this is where you got to pitch it. You basically have to manage a game. That's what you have to do. You have to manage the game. And overall, I don't know if he knows really what to do in these moments. Great catcher, knowledgeable guy, but he's in the wrong spot too early in his life.
Okay, I definitely agree. I don't I brought up the stolen base thing a few times. I think he's doesn't manage the bullpen very well. Makes a lot of questionable decisions with how he brings guys in and out. When guys aren't struggling, when guys are struggling, he doesn't take them out quick enough. It's almost as if he doesn't have a feel for the pitchers. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. Well, he doesn't have a feel for the pitchers. It's like he's so darn scared they're going to get hurt, or he's thinking like for instance, look at the amount of innings that Keegan Thompson plays. That he pitches. Look at the amount of innings. Does he have some kind of something in his contract that says he has to pitch this much to get a bonus? Does he
Right.
I have to ask these. These are questions I ask. Does he have some kind of bonus to be able to? I mean, because that's way too many. I mean, what do you have? A couple of 3 or 4 inning, a couple of them this past week. He had a couple of 3-4 inning appearances, and we understand he's the only one they really have right now. A lot of the pitchers are struggling, so he's really the only one they have. But really, overall, there is no feeling. There is no feeling out because, like, the thing, and this is the deal. Okay, I want to protect Kyle. Kyle's basically had 1 IR in 7 years, essentially. He's not Jacob deGrom. He has the easiest pitching rotation in baseball. It's like he's not going to get himself hurt in 90 pitches. It's like you got to just start. You just got to ease your head into a little bit and just start trusting the pitchers. That's the number one thing about a manager. You got to start trusting the players.
Yeah, it's that's the one thing I've noticed with really good managers in the major leagues, as opposed to guys that are good or okay and guys that are horrible. A really good manager in the major leagues has a feel for his starting pitchers and his relief pitchers. He'll know when the pitcher just doesn't have it and he'll get him out quickly. He'll know when the guy's on fire and he'll leave him in a game that you'd say, wow, really? Even, another jam and then leaving him in. But when you have Ross just is all over the place. There's no, you look at the moves and you leave yourself questioning, what is he doing? And when you're a fan, you watch, 100, 160 games, you basically should have an idea of what's going to happen, who's going to pitch where, what everyone's situation is. I just don't think we have that yet. What's your thoughts?
He lived off Joe Madden. That was his thing when he was with the Cubs and he was the catcher, and he lived off Madden. He watched Madden, and see, Joe Madden essentially invented a lot of what we see right now. Like when pitchers did hit, he made them 7th and 8th. He switched around a ton. But see, Madden developed this over years and years and years of making mistakes and figuring things out. And he took chances that a lot of, like in the World Series Game 7, he took chances that a lot of people would not have taken, and he almost blew it. But that's what Joe Madden was. Joe Madden was basically all these years Bruce Arians of baseball.
Right.
Yeah.
And that,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There are some guys that just are around so long and they have a system, they play with it, and it works for them.
Yeah.
Look at Buck Showalter, another guy. Right now what he's doing with the Mets, phenomenal. The Mets are not the best team in baseball, but they're playing like it and they have the record of it. And they're doing things. We talked about the Cardinal game last night. Why are they doing that? Because Buck gets the most out of his players. There are some managers that are that good at doing that. The issue with Buck is his act only lasts a few years.
Yeah. And something to think about is baseball. See, I got something proven wrong about Tony La Russa from the White Sox. I got proven wrong on something. I thought he's 10 years out of the league. They're trying to put him in because Dusty was successful with Houston. Okay, over 70 years old. So they're doing the same thing. They're copying that deal. I was thinking this is dead man walking. I mean, he's been 10 years out of the league, changed the game, all that stuff. Prove me wrong. Completely proved me wrong. And then now Showalter's going to be doing the same. I never say anything about him, but he'll do the same. Baseball is about the only sport you can do that. You can't bring a football coach 10 years out. No way. You can't bring. There's no way you're bringing Phil Jackson back. No way. Not, or if you do bring him back, he's not going to be successful like that. The thing is, baseball doesn't change that much the way that like a basketball and a football do. It's like in the end, you still have the shift. In the end, you still have hitting the ball into the into a gap. You still have all these things. You still have the home runs. And bringing up something earlier, and I'll go off in this part. I like the one home run for 20 runs. I love that actually because it means you can timely hit. Problem is, if you don't have enough home runs, then you're not going to hit the timely ones when you need it.
To me, that's the killer. They lack the pop off the bat this year. There's no guy besides for Contreras right now in my mind that can go up there. He's not really a true power hitter. To me, he's more of a all-around hitter. Who in that lineup is your slugger? Suzuki's not a slugger. He's another all-around hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Hap's not really a slugger. Wisdom strikes out too much to be a slugger. You don't have that guy that you had with Bryant or Rizzo. So where does that come from?
Well, you could have said Hobby also. Hobby struck out a ton. Same time, he absolutely popped it up 450-footer like nothing.
Yeah.
You have to say Hap right now. He got one tonight. And it's like, you got to say Hap at this point. He's over 300, and he's getting the bat on the ball. But really, this is what I think about also 2015, before the World Series time and everything. They absolutely obliterate the Cardinals. Nothing but homers. Remember that. Remember the rooftop thing off the sign from Schwarber. I mean, everything. They just obliterated them. Home run after home run. They had all the power. Series against the Mets. I mean, zip. The thing is, and then guess what? In 2016, they had home runs, but they also had timely hitting. Some point, I liked the 21 runs with one home run. It shows you can timely hit. You need a mix. You can't just have all homers because it's kind of like someone throwing 70 yards at all times. Michael Vick, like when he was when the quarterback in the league, he was a 60-yard run, a 70-yard throw under nothing. And if you spied him off the linebacker, that was it. That was it for him. He wasn't a great quarterback by thought. And this is the whole thing with home runs. You can have all the pop. The pop is the Sports Center. The pop is the YouTube, and it's the TikTok. But it's not, but in the end, if you have only pop, that can stop. That can end like the Mets did 2015 when they just stopped them completely. You don't always hit home runs. You got to have a mix. 2016 was a mix. It was a mix. Remember, one of the first plays of the game, Dexter Fowler home run, but what won the game for the Cubs? It was Zobrist and the opposite field single, real dribbler.
I don't disagree with you. You have to have timely hitting, but at the same time, the way baseball has changed, you have to hit home runs. I'm not saying you have to hit 4 or 5 a game, 3 a game, but with the wind blowing out in Wrigley, hitting one home run and a 21-run output, and even all weekend, there was just not many home runs. And it seems like that's where they're at. They're just not hitting the long ball. You are right. Hap is doing a great job at this point doing it. He's really probably stepped up. Besides Suzuki, I would say they're the 2 offensive MVPs at this point. But it does worry me that, they just don't have the power they had last year. And when they need the timely hitting in a 4-3 game, you're stranding guys on base. You're getting, runners on first and third with no out, second and third with no out, and you're not getting runners home, and you're losing a 1-run game. Where's that going to lead you come August? It's going to be a long summer when that happens.
Well, here's another thing about no home runs. I can just say this part. As much as anything, you have timely hitting. Here's the deal. David Ross is not Whitey Herzog. When they didn't have any pop, and you only had, at that time, you had Jack Clark, and that's it, and everybody else hit like 1 home run a year. But this is the thing. He's not Whitey Herzog. Whitey Herzog knew when to steal. He knew to shift. He He knew every little kind of thing. He was nothing. I mean, he was probably the most strategic manager of all time as far as in the National League. Everything.
All right.
But that's the thing. David Ross isn't that.
Exactly. No, not at
Not
all.
that, and it's a different game. But he's not. He hasn't even come close to that. So if you're going to have the no home runs, you got to learn the strategy, and he's nowhere close.
No. So we're going to table your favorite all-time Cub for next week because we're going to get to Cubfidential. We got a good one for tonight, but we're not even going to say who your favorite Cub is. We're going to save that. It's going to be exciting next week. I can't wait.
I already have it, so don't worry about it.
I know. I was all ready to talk to you about it. So tonight's Cubfidential, you're going to start. You're going up against Jordan again. Jay's going to judge it as usual. So we're going to go to the lighter game last week. So you're going to take why he should have been pulled out of the game, and Jordan's going to say why he should be kept in. You got 2 minutes to say why he should have been pulled.
Because I'm going to say this based off of going forward a little bit, going forward and a little bit of a fast forward with Kyle. If you can take a guy like him out at 76 pitches, which could have been 90 for a complete game, if you can do that, then you're worried about arms. You do it to everybody. When you take the easiest rotation, the guy with the easiest rotation in baseball, and you're taking him out, then you do it to you got to do it to everybody. Biggest thing about it right now is the Cubs aren't hitting. They're not hitting at all. And not whatsoever. They're not getting any, they're not getting the timely hits. They're not getting other than 21 runs, they're not getting them. And when you have something like this, you can't keep everybody in the game. You can't keep them. You've got to trust your bullpen as much as they're struggling at times. You got to trust them. You got to play some strategy because right now there is none. And what we got to do, what the Cubs have got to do at this point of time is if they're going to treat the star, the leader of the pitching staff, if they're going to treat the ace like that, you got to do it with everybody. Because otherwise, here's the thing, Leiter should just be it. Just truth. That is just truth and simple. Go on, Jordan.
So now we're going to bring up Jordan Long saying why he should have been kept in the game. Jordan, you're up on Cubfidential. Let's go.
Well, you look at it. Yeah, we were up 3-0 after 1, 3-2 after 4. And honestly, you're looking at his pitch count. It was 72 pitches. It really wasn't that high. 44 of those strikes. He wasn't struggling. Yes, I get that you took out Kyle Hendricks when he wasn't struggling, but still, he should have been kept in. It wasn't like he was not finding the zone. I don't understand why he got pulled. You're up 3-2. You have a chance to win the ball game. Keep him in past the 4th inning. See what he can do in the 5th and 6th innings. I understand that we didn't have a lot of offense, but he was the reason why we were in the game. What happens if we keep him in at 3-2 and he pitches well? Does it give up, a ton of runs or hits? We may win that game. Yes, I get that your offense has to carry you. It didn't happen, but the fact of the matter is you keep him in, you give him a chance to win, let him pitch 1 or 2 innings, then take him out. David Ross, to me, just went to the bullpen too quickly. Even though that we were up 3-2, Leiter gets a no decision, loses the game 4-3. I just think David Ross was looking at it saying, you know what, we got to go to the bullpen. I'm worried that this game's going to get out of hand. Really shouldn't have done that. Keep him in, see what you can do with Leiter in that instance, and actually try to win the ball game. See if your offense can do anything, because we know great defense leads to great offense. And that is why Leiter should have stayed in. He pitched well. Don't take him out. Keep him in, especially since his pitch count was not that high. It was 72 pitches. Take him out if he has 100, but 72 and he wasn't struggling, keep him in. That's all I have to say.
All right, Jacob, you got a 1-minute rebuttal coming up now. What do you think about what Jordan said? I want to hear it. Let's go.
Yeah, you can say that. You can say you want him. You want him in, but it's like, do you really want to trust Ross right now? Do you want to trust David Ross right now to make any decisions like that, to be able to keep them in? And what if he gets hurt? What if he gets hurt during that time? What if he gets hurt and then you get the whole of the fans? And you got to remember, no one can even go 100 pitches anymore. So the whole of the fans, like they asked for his firing anyway. But guess what? What if he gets hurt? What if that stuff happens? You can't keep him in the game, and you have to let the bullpen go. Wait, they have to get out of their funk at this point in time. That's what it is.
That was the pundit's pundit. Jordan, you got 1 minute rebuttal. What do you got? Let's hear your response.
Still think that David Ross went to the bullpen way too early. You can't do that in the fourth inning. Leave him in for the fifth, maybe the sixth inning. But I just think if you're going to go into him in the fourth, go to the bullpen in the fifth innings, you're really overworking the bullpen. And Ross has to understand you need to let your pitchers work out of jams. If not, you're going to keep taking them out and saying, okay, you're going to go to the fourth inning. We're going to take him out. You have to go to the fifth, sixth inning to see if they have anything left. I just felt like he took him out way too soon. Keep him in, see if you can win the ball game. But then again, it's David Ross. He needs to understand, trust your pitchers.
And we're up for Jay Nelson. Who's the winner of Cubfidential Week 2? I need to know.
All right, so we had a classic meeting just now. Two very, very knowledgeable people that we worked with that presented great arguments on both sides. Jacob did mention, justifying pulling them because sometimes a manager wants a change of pace. Sometimes they want that spark that'll get them. I mean, who really wants to, win a close game? Theoretically, you want to blow them out, And if pulling them and putting another pitcher helps them get there, that's totally understandable. But at the same time, one of my biggest gripes with baseball has been when a manager pulls a pitcher too soon, and that is and even worse when they have the hot hand. I've seen it all the time in the World Series. This is common in the World Series, actually. I'm not a fan of yanking them too soon. I think the thing that stood out to me was the fact that, they weren't down. He was only at 72 pitches. I can understand if he was sitting at 100 pitches, maybe like 105, 110, then okay, I get it. You don't want to wear your guy out. So this week it was close yet again. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Jordan. I thought he presented a great argument on why they should have kept him in.
So we're 1-1 if I'm correct, right?
We're at 1-1.
All right. So we got a win for Jordan this week. The pundit got last week. We're 1-1. Jen hasn't been involved yet. She'll be coming up soon on Cubfidential. So things don't get any easier for the Cubs right now. They're playing right now in Atlanta, lost game 1. They're going up to Milwaukee over the weekend. Then we got the Crosstown Series to start next week before playing the Dodgers. So things are not going to get easier over the next 2 weeks. They sit 7-10. We'll see where they come out when we start next week after game 1 of the Crosstown rivalry. But it's been a pleasure seeing you guys tonight. This has been Cubfidential. Make sure you're checking out all the great shows on Sideline Sports. We'll check you later on. 7 nights a week, Sideline Sports. We got all your shows. Have a good night.